I told my wife I wanted a divorce while her brother was sitting on my couch eating my leftover pizza, after 7 years of her choosing him over me, letting him live in our home, spend our money, ignore every boundary, and turning me into a guest in my own life until I finally put myself first. I told my wife I wanted a divorce while her brother was sitting on our couch eating my leftover pizza. I'm done, Rachel. I want a divorce. I can't do this anymore. The words came out flat. Emotionless. Like I was ordering coffee, not ending a 7-year marriage. Her brother Derek stopped mid-chew, pizza slice halfway to his mouth, eyes going wide. Rachel just stared at me like I'd spoken a language she didn't understand. What are you talking about? Her voice was small. Confused. Like maybe she'd misheard me. This. Us. Your family living in our house. I'm done. Derek stood up. Dude, what the very bad? Sit down, Derek. This doesn't concern you. Except it does. Because you're the reason I'm having this conversation. I'd been planning to do this differently. Privately. Maybe over dinner at a restaurant where she couldn't make a scene. Maybe in counseling where we'd have a mediator. Maybe I wasn't planning to do it at all and was just going to suffocate slowly under the weight of her family for the rest of my life. But I came home early from work, walked into my own house, and found Derek on my couch again. Third time this week. Eating my food. Watching my TV. Treating my home like his personal crash pad. And something in me just snapped. 7 years. 7 years of this. And I finally said it out loud. Rachel started crying immediately. Not the gentle tears of someone who's upset. The loud, gasping sobs of someone who's been caught off guard and doesn't know how to process it. Derek moved toward her, protective older brother mode activated, and I almost laughed. Don't, I said. Don't comfort her. You're half the problem. What's that supposed to mean? It means get the very bad, out of my house. Bro, you need to calm down. I'm not your bro. I've never been your bro. I'm the guy whose life you've been leeching off of for 7 years while pretending we're friends. Now get out. Derek looked at Rachel. Rachel looked at me. And I saw it. That moment where she had to choose. Her husband of 7 years or her brother who'd been using us as a free hotel since the day we got married. She chose him. You can't talk to him like that, she said. Voice shaking but defiant. He's family. So am I. Or I was. Apparently that means less than being your brother. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Rachel. That's the point. Let me back up. Let me tell you how we got here. I met Rachel 8 years ago. She was funny. Smart. Beautiful in that effortless way that made me feel lucky just to be near her. We dated for a year before I proposed. Everything was perfect. She was perfect. I thought I'd found the person I was supposed to spend my life with. Then I met her family. Derek was the oldest. 28 when I met him. Still living with their parents. No job. No prospects. Just a guy who played video games and talked about all the things he was going to do someday. Rachel adored him. Talked about him like he was some kind of misunderstood genius who just needed the right opportunity. Her parents enabled him. Made excuses. Said he was figuring things out. That he'd been through a lot. That we needed to be patient with him. I didn't mind at first. Every family has that one member who needs extra support. I figured Derek would get his mess together eventually. Find a job. Move out. Become an over 18. I was wrong. We got married. Small wedding. Derek was in the wedding party. Showed up hungover. Forgot his tie. Made a speech that was mostly about himself. Rachel laughed it off. Said that was just Derek being Derek. 2 months into our marriage, Derek showed up at our apartment at midnight. Said he'd had a fight with their parents and needed a place to crash. Just for the night. He stayed for 3 weeks. Rachel couldn't say no to him. Every time I suggested maybe it was time for him to leave, she'd get defensive. Say I didn't understand how hard things were for him. That he was family. That we needed to help. So he stayed. Slept on our couch. Ate our food. Used our internet. Didn't contribute anything. Not rent. Not groceries. Not even cleaning up after himself. Just existed in our space like a permanent houseguest who'd never gotten the hint. When he finally left, I thought that was it. Thought we'd have our space back. Our marriage back. 3 months later, he was back. Lost his job. Needed a place to stay. Just for a little while. 6 weeks that time. It became a pattern. Derek would show up. Stay for weeks. Drain our savings. Eat our food. Make our home feel like it wasn't ours. Then he'd leave. And I'd breathe. And think maybe we were done. Maybe he'd figured it out. Then he'd be back. Rachel's parents never helped. Never offered to take him in again. Never gave him money. Just called Rachel and said Derek was struggling and could we please help him out. And Rachel, sweet, loyal, incapable of saying no Rachel, would always say yes. I tried talking to her about it. Tried explaining that we couldn't build a life together if her brother was constantly disrupting it. She'd agree. Say she understood. Say she'd talk to him. Nothing ever changed. Year 3 of our marriage, we bought a house. I thought maybe having our own place, something we'd invested in, would make it easier for Rachel to set boundaries. Would make it harder for Derek to just show up. He had a key within a month. Rachel gave it to him for emergencies. The emergencies were constant. He'd show up when we were at work. Help himself to whatever he wanted. Leave messes. Bring friends over. Treat our house like a community center. I changed the locks. Rachel got mad at me. Said I was being controlling. That Derek needed to know he was welcome. That family should always have access. I asked her when I became less important than her brother. She cried. Said that wasn't fair. That she loved me. That I was being dramatic. I gave her back the key to give to Derek. Told myself it was about picking my battles. About compromise. About marriage. Really, it was about me being too weak to stand up for myself. Year 4, we started trying for kids. I thought maybe a baby would shift Rachel's priorities. Would make her realize we needed our space. Our privacy. Our life without her brother as a constant third wheel. We didn't get pregnant. Month after month of negative tests. Rachel was devastated. I was relieved and hated myself for it. How could I bring a kid into this? Into a house where Derek had more say than I did? Rachel wanted to do fertility treatments. I said we should wait. Get our finances in order first. Really, what I meant was get your brother out of our lives first, but I couldn't say that. Because every time I suggested Derek was a problem, Rachel made me feel like a monster. Year 5, Derek moved in temporarily while he looked for a new apartment. 4 months. 4 months of him on our couch. In our space. Eating meals with us. Weighing in on our marriage. Acting like he lived there. Because he did live there. And nobody but me seemed to see a problem with it. I started working late. Not because I had to. Because I couldn't come home and see him there. Couldn't sit in my own living room and watch him make himself comfortable in my life while contributing nothing. Rachel noticed. Asked if I was having an affair. I almost laughed. An affair would have required me caring about something other than my growing resentment. I'm not having an affair, I told her. I'm just tired. Of what? Everything. She didn't push. Didn't ask what I meant. Maybe she knew. Maybe she'd always known and was just hoping I'd accept it. That I'd resign myself to a marriage where her brother's needs always came before mine. Year 6, my father died. Heart dispute. Sudden. I was devastated. Rachel was supportive. Loving. Present in all the ways I needed. Until Derek showed up at the funeral. Tipsy. Made a scene. Had to be escorted out. Rachel made excuses. Said he was dealing with his own grief. That our dad had been like a father to him too. That I needed to be understanding. I buried my father and then went home and made dinner for my wife's brother because he was going through a hard time. That's when I knew. Knew I'd lost something I couldn't get back. Some part of myself that knew how to stand up. How to say no. How to demand better. I'd become a doormat. And Rachel had helped me become one. Year 7 started 3 months ago. Derek showed up with garbage bags full of clothes. Said his roommate had kicked him out. Needed to stay with us while he figured things out. I didn't say anything. Just watched him move into our guest room. The guest room we decorated for the kids we weren't having. The room that was supposed to be a nursery someday. Derek turned it into his personal disaster zone. Clothes everywhere. Trash piling up. Music playing at all hours. He'd have people over. Strangers in our house. Using our bathroom. Eating our food. I stopped sleeping. Started having panic problems. Would sit in my car in the driveway before going inside because I couldn't face another night of Derek sprawled on my couch like he owned the place. Rachel asked if I wanted to talk to someone. A therapist. Said I seemed stressed. I told her I was fine. Because what was I supposed to say? That I resented her brother? That I resented her for never choosing me? That our marriage had become a hostage situation where I was too afraid of being the bad guy to demand my own life back? Last week, I came home and Derek had eaten the birthday cake Rachel had made for me. The whole thing. Just sat there and ate my birthday cake while watching TV. He didn't apologize. Just laughed and said he'd been high and it looked good. Rachel bought another cake. Acted like it wasn't a big deal. Like her brother eating my birthday cake was just one of those quirky family things. I didn't eat the second cake. Couldn't. It felt like accepting something I didn't want to accept anymore. 2 days ago, I was in the shower and heard voices. Derek had brought someone over. A girl. They were in the living room. I could hear them through the walls. Laughing. Music playing. Like it was his house. I got out of the shower, walked into the living room in my towel, and asked them to leave. The girl looked embarrassed. Pleasant behavior, Ed. Derek looked annoyed. Dude, seriously? It's not even that late. It's my house. Rachel said I could have people over. Rachel doesn't get to make that decision without asking me. Bro, you're being super weird right now. I went back to the bathroom. Heard Derek tell the girl I was always like this. That I had to stick up my unpleasant behavior. That he felt bad for Rachel. That night, I slept in my car. Couldn't be in the house. Couldn't pretend everything was fine. Rachel texted asking where I was. I didn't respond. In the morning, I went to work without going home. Wore yesterday's clothes. Bought a new shirt at Target on my lunch break. Stayed at a hotel that night. Rachel called. Said she was worried. Said Derek told her what happened. That I'd made his guest feel uncomfortable. Not that I was uncomfortable. Not that maybe having strangers in our house without asking me was a problem. Just that I'd been rude to Derek's guest. Where are you? She asked. Hotel. Why? Because I can't be there anymore. We need to talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, Rachel. Either your brother leaves or I do. She hung up. Called back an hour later. Said Derek had agreed to start looking for a place. That he'd be gone soon. That I just needed to be patient. I'd been patient for 7 years. I went back home today. Thought maybe things would be different. Maybe Rachel had finally understood. Maybe Derek had actually started packing. Instead, I found him on my couch. Eating my food. Watching my TV. Still there. Still comfortable. Still acting like he had every right to be in my space. And I just couldn't anymore. I'm done, Rachel. I want a divorce. The words hung in the air. Derek stood there with pizza in his hand. Rachel was crying. And I felt nothing. No regret. No sadness. Just relief that I'd finally said it out loud. You don't mean that, Rachel said. I do. We can fix this. How? How do we fix 7 years of you choosing him over me? I never chose him over you. You chose him every single day. Derek stepped forward. Maybe you should leave, man. Let Rachel calm down. This is my house. It's both of your house. No. It's my house. I pay the mortgage. I pay the bills. I pay for the food you're eating right now. This is my house and you need to leave. Rachel, tell him he's being crazy. Rachel looked between us. And I saw it again. That choice. That decision she'd been making for 7 years. Her husband or her brother. Maybe you should give us some space, Derek, she said quietly. He looked betrayed. Are you serious? Just for tonight. Please. He grabbed his jacket. Looked at me like I'd committed some unforgivable crime. You're an unpleasant person, you know that? Get out. He left. Slammed the door hard enough that a picture fell off the wall. Rachel flinched. Started crying harder. How could you do that in front of him? She asked. How could you let him do this to us for 7 years? He's my brother. And I'm your husband. Doesn't that mean anything? She looked at me with these wounded eyes like I was the one who'd done something wrong. Like I was the bad guy for finally standing up for myself. Of course it means something. But you can't just issue ultimatums. You can't just demand I choose. I didn't demand anything, Rachel. I stated a fact. I can't live like this anymore. I won't. So you're just going to throw away 7 years because of Derek? I'm throwing away 7 years because you made me a guest in my own life. Because you prioritized your brother's comfort over my sanity. Because every time I tried to set a boundary, you made me feel guilty for it. She sat down. Stopped crying. Just looked defeated. I didn't realize, she said quietly. I didn't realize it was this bad. How could you not? I've been telling you for years. You never said you wanted a divorce. I shouldn't have had to. You should have cared enough to notice I was drowning. We sat in silence. The house felt bigger without Derek in it. Quieter. Like I could finally breathe. What if he leaves? Rachel asked. What if Derek finds his own place and stops coming over? Can we fix this then? I wanted to say yes. Wanted to believe that was all it would take. But I knew better. It's not just about Derek, I said. It's about you choosing him every time. It's about 7 years of feeling like I didn't matter. Like my needs didn't matter. Like my feelings didn't matter. They matter to me. Not enough. She started crying again. And I felt nothing. 7 years ago, her tears would have destroyed me. Would have made me apologize. Would have made me take it back. Now I just felt tired. I'll sleep in the guest room tonight, I said. Tomorrow we can talk about logistics. Please don't do this. I already did. I walked away. Left her crying in the living room. Went to the guest room, Derek's room, and saw the disaster he'd left behind. Clothes everywhere. Trash. His smell embedded in everything. I started packing his stuff. Putting it in garbage bags. If he wasn't going to respect my space, he wasn't going to keep his things here. Rachel came in. Watched me pack. What are you doing? Getting rid of his stuff. He'll be upset. I don't care. He's going to think I'm siding with you. You should be siding with me. I'm your husband. He's my brother. And there it is. That right there. That's why this is over. She didn't try to stop me. Just stood there watching me pack up Derek's life and remove it from my house. When I was done, I stacked the bags by the front door. "You can take these to him tomorrow," I said. "Where's he supposed to go?" "That's not my problem anymore. He's family." So was I. I went to bed. Didn't sleep. Just lay there thinking about all the ways this could have been different. All the moments where Rachel could have chosen me. Could have set boundaries. Could have built a life with me instead of building a hotel for her brother. In the morning, the bags were gone. So was Rachel. She'd left a note. "Staying at my parents' for a few days. We need space. Derek's things are in the garage. Please don't throw them away." She'd taken his stuff to the garage. Couldn't even commit to making him take it himself. Still protecting him. Still making excuses. I called a lawyer that day. The divorce papers were filed within a week. Rachel didn't believe I was serious until the process server showed up at her parents' house. She called me crying, asking how I could do this. How I could give up on us without even trying counseling. "We've been in counseling for 7 years, I told her. "Except the counselor was your brother and he always voted in his own favor. That's not fair." I was so tired of hearing what wasn't fair. Her family came at me hard. Her mother called and told me I was breaking her daughter's heart. That I was abandoning my wife when she needed me most. That real men work through their problems instead of running away. I asked her where Derek was living now. She hung up. Her father sent me an email. Long. Rambling. About family values and commitment and how disappointed he was in me. How they'd welcomed me into their family and this was how I repaid them. I replied with a single line, "You welcome me in and then let your son move in too. Permanently." He didn't respond. Derek sent me a series of texts. Each one angrier than the last. Calling me everything from selfish to pathetic to a coward. Saying I'd manipulated Rachel. That I was isolating her from her family. That he'd always known I was a piece of mess and now everyone else could see it too. I blocked his number. Should have done that years ago. My friends were split. The ones who'd been to our house, who'd seen Derek sprawled on the couch, who'd witnessed the dynamic, they understood. They'd been telling me for years to set boundaries. To stand up for myself. They were relieved I was finally getting out. The others, the ones who only knew Rachel, who'd only seen her at parties and dinners where she was charming and lovely, they thought I was throwing away a good marriage over something petty. They'd heard her version. How I'd randomly announced I wanted a divorce in front of her brother. How I'd humiliated her. How I'd refused to work on our problems. She left out the 7 years of context. Made it sound like I'd snapped over nothing. I stopped trying to explain. You either understood or you didn't. If you'd never experienced having your boundaries eroded day by day, year by year, until you couldn't remember what it felt like to have a space that was truly yours, then you wouldn't get it. Rachel moved back into the house after a week. Said it was her house too. That I couldn't kick her out. She was right. Legally, she had every right to be there. So we lived together while getting divorced. Separate rooms. Minimal interaction. It was horrible in a different way than before. At least before we'd pretended to be a couple. Now we were just two strangers sharing space, counting down to the day we could split everything and never see each other again. Derek tried to come over. I'd changed the locks again. He rang the doorbell for 20 minutes before giving up. Rachel was furious. He just wanted to check on me. He wanted to move back in. You don't know that. I know exactly that. She started having her family over when I was at work. I'd come home and find evidence. Extra coffee cups. Different food in the fridge. The furniture slightly rearranged. They were marking territory, making sure I knew the house wasn't just mine even if I'd paid for it. I stopped coming home until late. Would sit in coffee shops or drive around or just sit in my car in random parking lots. Anything to avoid the house that felt like a battlefield. My lawyer said this was common. That divorces brought out the worst in people. That Rachel was probably acting on advice from her family, from friends, maybe from her own lawyer. That I needed to document everything. So I started documenting. Times she had people over without telling me. Times Derek showed up and she let him in. Every text message. Every email. Every moment that proved what I'd been living with. The discovery process was brutal. We had to disclose all our finances. Every bank account. Every credit card. Every purchase. That's when I saw it in black and white. How much money Derek had cost us. Groceries. Utilities. That time Rachel loaned him $3,000 that he never paid back. Another $5,000 for car repairs. Another $2,000 for rent at a place he supposedly had lined up but never materialized. Over $50,000 in 7 years. Money I'd earned. Money we could have saved. Money that could have gone toward a down payment on a better house, toward fertility treatments, toward our future. Gone. Given to her brother who'd contributed nothing and would never pay it back. I showed the documents to my lawyer. She whistled low. This is good for you. Shows financial irresponsibility. Might help with unpleasant behavior at division. I didn't care about unpleasant behavior at division. I cared that I'd worked myself to exhaustion to provide for a wife who'd funneled our future into her brother's black hole of neediness. Rachel's lawyer tried to argue the money was gifts. That I'd agreed to help Derek. That it was marital funds used for family support. My lawyer pointed out I'd never agreed to anything. That Rachel had made those decisions unilaterally. That I'd repeatedly asked her to stop. We had texts to prove it. Years of me asking Rachel to set boundaries. Her promising she would. Nothing changing. The mediation was a disaster. We couldn't agree on anything. Rachel wanted half of everything, including my retirement account that I'd been contributing to since before we met. Wanted me to keep paying the mortgage on the house until we sold it, even though she was living there alone now. Wanted spousal support because she'd sacrificed her career to support me. She'd worked part-time by choice. I'd never asked her to quit her job. She'd wanted more free time and we could afford it because I'd worked overtime constantly. But now it was framed as sacrifice. As if she'd given something up for me. My lawyer was ruthless. Brought up every instance of Derek living with us. Every dollar Rachel had given him. Every time she'd prioritized her family over our marriage. Rachel cried through the whole mediation. Made me look like a monster. The mediator kept suggesting maybe we could work this out. Maybe couples counseling. Maybe a trial separation. I said no. I was done. This wasn't a trial. This was the verdict. We went to court. The judge was not sympathetic to Rachel's claim that she deserved more because she'd maintained the household. Especially when my lawyer presented evidence that maintaining the household included housing her brother rent-free for months at a time. I got a fair split. Not generous. Just fair. The house would be sold and we'd split the proceeds after paying off the mortgage. Retirement accounts divided. No spousal support. Clean break. Rachel was furious. Stood outside the courthouse and screamed at me. Called me vindictive. Said I'd destroyed her life over my ego. That I couldn't handle her having a close family. That I was jealous of her relationship with Derek. Jealous. Like I'd wanted what they had. Like I'd wanted to be coddled and enabled and treated like a child well into my 30s. I walked away. Got in my car. Drove to the apartment I'd rented. Small. Quiet. Mine. For the first time in 7 years, I came home to a space that was just mine. No Derek on the couch. No Rachel making excuses. No family members who thought they had more right to my home than I did. Just silence. It was beautiful. The house sold quickly. Nice neighborhood, good price. Rachel wanted to delay the sale. Keep it longer. I think she hoped I'd change my mind. That time would make me forget why I'd left. I pushed for a quick sale. My lawyer made it happen. We split the money. Rachel immediately gave half of hers to Derek for back rent he'd paid at various places. Money I'd helped earn, that she now gave to the person who'd destroyed our marriage. I put mine in savings. Started thinking about what I wanted to do with my life now that it was actually mine again. The divorce was final 6 months after I'd announced I wanted one. Quick by most standards. Probably because I didn't fight for anything except my freedom. Rachel sent me one final text. I hope you're happy. You got what you wanted. You destroyed a family. I didn't respond. But I thought about it. Thought about telling her that I didn't destroy anything. That her family had destroyed us long before I'd said anything. That her inability to set boundaries, to choose her spouse, to build a life that was ours instead of theirs, that's what destroyed us. But she wouldn't have understood. She still thought she was the victim. Still thought I was the bad guy who'd impact and up a good marriage over nothing. My friends let go me a divorce party. Careless. Tacky. But kind of perfect. We drank too much and someone made a cake that said free at last and everyone told stories about times they'd seen Derek at my house being awful. Turns out everyone had noticed. Everyone had known. They'd just been waiting for me to do something about it. Why didn't you say anything? I asked. Would you have listened? My friend Mike said. He was right. I wouldn't have. I'd been too deep in it. Too convinced that I just needed to be more patient, more understanding, more accommodating. I'd spent 7 years trying to be the bigger person. Trying to be the husband who supported his wife's family. Trying to be understanding of Derek's struggles. And all it got me was a marriage where I came last. Where my needs didn't matter. Where my home wasn't mine. 6 months after the divorce, I ran into Rachel at a grocery store. She looked tired. Older. She was with Derek. He saw me first. Started to say something. I just walked past them. Didn't engage. Didn't acknowledge them. They weren't my problem anymore. Rachel called that night. First time in months. You couldn't even say hello? No. That's really petty. I don't owe you anything, Rachel. Not politeness. Not conversation. Not anything. We were married for 7 years. And I spent all 7 trying to get you to see what you were doing to us. You never listened. So no, I'm not going to make small talk at the grocery store and pretend we're friends. Derek thinks you're still angry. I don't care what Derek thinks. I never have. That was always your problem, not mine. She was quiet for a long time. Do you regret it? Ending things? Not for a second. Even though we could have worked it out? We couldn't have. You would have had to choose me. And you never would have. That's not true. Rachel, you took his bags to the garage instead of making him take them himself. Even after I'd asked for a divorce, you were still protecting him from consequences. So yeah. We couldn't have worked it out. She hung up. I haven't heard from her since. A year after the divorce, I started dating someone new. Claire. She has clear boundaries with her family. When her sister asked to crash for a weekend, Claire checked with me first. Asked if I was comfortable. Made sure her sister knew the rules. 3 days, then gone. Her sister stayed 2 nights and left early because she had plans. Cleaned up after herself. Brought us wine to thank us for hosting. Acted like a normal person staying at someone else's house. I almost cried. This was what normal looked like. This was what respect looked like. Claire asked me about my divorce once. I gave her the short version. She didn't need all the details. Just the important part, my ex-wife couldn't set boundaries with her family and it destroyed our marriage. That must have been hard, she said. It was. But leaving was harder. Why? Because I kept thinking maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was being selfish. Maybe I should have tried harder. Were you wrong? No. I should have left 5 years earlier. She squeezed my hand. Didn't need to say anything else. She got it. That's the thing nobody tells you about bad marriages. How long you stay in them trying to convince yourself they're not that bad. How you lower your standards bit by bit until you forget what healthy looked like. How you accommodate and compromise and sacrifice until there's nothing left of you except the parts that serve everyone else. I lost 7 years trying to make Rachel happy. Trying to be the understanding husband. Trying to accept that her family came first. I thought I was being strong. Thought I was being mature. Really I was just being weak. The strong thing would have been setting boundaries on day one. Telling Rachel that Derek needed to find his own place. That our home was ours, not his. That marriage meant prioritizing each other. But I didn't. I waited. I accommodated. I enabled Rachel's enabling of Derek. And by the time I finally stood up for myself, there was nothing left to save. People ask me sometimes if I think Rachel ever understood why I left. If she ever realized what she'd done wrong. I doubt it. Last I heard from mutual friends, she's still single. Still living near her parents. Derek still comes around constantly. She probably tells people I was controlling. That I tried to isolate her from her family. That she's better off without me. Maybe she is. Maybe she's happier being able to prioritize Derek without someone pointing out how unhealthy it is. I know I'm happier. I have a life that's mine. A relationship built on mutual respect. A home where I don't feel like a guest. I told my wife I wanted a divorce in front of her brother. It was harsh. It was messy. It was probably the wrong way to do it. But it was also the only way it was ever going to happen. Because if I'd done it privately, gently, with care for her feelings, she would have talked me out of it. Would have promised things would change. Would have cried and begged and made me feel like a monster for leaving. And I would have stayed. Would have given her another chance. Would have wasted more years waiting for her to choose me. Doing it in front of Derek, announcing it while he was standing there with pizza in my house, it made it real. Made it undeniable. Burned the bridge completely. Was it the right thing to do? I don't know. It was the thing I needed to do. And now, 2 years later, sitting in my own apartment with someone who actually respects me, I can say with complete certainty, I do it again. Not because I wanted to upset Rachel. Not because I enjoyed the confrontation. But because sometimes the only way to save yourself is to impact everything up and walk away from the wreckage. My marriage was already over. It had been over for years. I'd just been too afraid to admit it. That day, standing in my living room looking at Derek on my couch, I finally stopped being afraid. I stopped caring what Rachel thought. Stopped caring what her family thought. Stopped caring if I was the bad guy in their story. I cared about me. Finally. After 7 years of coming last, I put myself first. And yeah, everything exploded. Yeah, it was angry and uncomfortable and dramatic and messy. But I'm free. And that's worth all of it.